Hello there and welcome to another edition of Ask David. The sun's shining, the sky's blue, we're still having plenty of rain and my garden is really relishing those growing conditions. But the weeds are too, and there are plenty of other gardening problems for me to answer. So the first email comes from Jane. She's contacted me to say that she got hold of some topsoil last year to fill up her raised beds and also with a view to topping off the borders in her garden, but sadly she's discovered that it's got mare's tail in it. So the first thing I would do, Jane, is I would get back to the supplier and ask them either for a refund or perhaps for some more topsoil without mare's tail in it. If you don't have much success there, then I would suggest that you sieve the remainder of the topsoil through quite a coarse sieve. It doesn't need to be terribly fine. Sieve that remaining topsoil and take out any of the roots that you find, and that means that you'll reduce the chance of the mare's tail getting into your borders. In the meantime, as you say in your email, keep picking the small pieces of mare's tail that do pop up, keep picking them out of the raised beds, and to try and stop those questing roots going deep down into the soil, where once they're down there, they will not be easy to get rid of. Josie has got in touch about her peony. She says she's been growing it in a large pot for many years. It flowered in the first and the second year, but now there's no sign of any flower on it, and she wonders how she can encourage it to bloom. So Josie, I would be inclined to knock the plant from the pot this autumn. I would pot it up into a loam-based compost, so that would be a John Innes number 3. Mix that compost half and half with some ordinary multi-purpose compost as well, so half John Innes number 3, half multi-purpose peat alternative compost. Mix those two together, fill a larger container than the one it's growing in at the moment, fill that with the compost and plant your peony in that. Grow it in a nice sunny, well-lit position, and I think once it settles down, it may take a year or so to settle back in again, but once it settles down, it will thank you by blooming its socks off. Anne's question is about an acer palmatum, which she says has been in the ground about 4 years, and this year for the first time it's developed some brown spotting on the leaves, and the edges of the leaves have gone a bit shriveled and it's causing the leaves to go a bit curly. Well, Anne, I think here the plant is probably suffering from heat stress. If it's growing in a very, very open, hot, sunny position with all that hot weather we had a few weeks ago, I think that might have stressed the plant. It might have got dry at the roots for a few days, and that very often causes the leaves to shrivel. So if possible, I'd be inclined to provide some shade by moving that acer into a slightly shadier spot this autumn, this coming autumn. Don't transplant it at the moment. Transplant it into a slightly shadier spot, somewhere where it gets sun for part of the day, but not direct sun all day. Give the plant a really good mulch around the base with some well-rotted garden compost or bagged compost, just to retain the moisture. Make sure that you keep that mulch away from the bark though, because if it touches the bark it can cause dieback. And then sit back and keep your fingers crossed. You say in your email that it might be disease. There are a number of leaf spot diseases that can affect different plants, and there's one that affects acers, but at the moment I would think it's most likely to be heat stress. Just make sure that if it is a fungal problem, that you pick up the fallen leaves at the end of the year, remove them so that the fungus can't overwinter in the leaf litter under the plant and reinfect the plant in the following year. Next, Kim sent me a picture of her hydrangea. She says last year it was absolutely spectacular and it flowered really well. This year things aren't looking so good, as you can see. Yellowing leaves and the flowers are rather stunted. This looks like iron deficiency to me. Typical signs are the chlorosis or the yellowing of the leaves, and the plant won't grow so strongly. I think it's probably down to the fact that last winter was a very wet one, and then the plant is under stress at the moment because it's had a very dry start to the spring. Now, even though it's got plenty of moisture, it's still deficient deficient and it's having trouble taking up the iron. So I would get a sequestered iron fertiliser and apply that. Often it's in liquid form and you can directly spray it onto the leaves at the dose suggested on the packaging, or you can water it on around the base of the plant. I would also mulch around 2 centimetres deep around the base of your poorly hydrangea, and next year I think it will be looking just as good and stunning as it did last year. And lastly this week, Toria has got in contact asking how to divide iris. Well, the ordinary Iris germanica, the flag iris, is actually fairly straightforward. It produces quite corky rhizomes that spread across the surface of the soil, and that gives you the indication that it actually likes growing just on or slightly below the soil surface, and each one of those rhizomes has a fan of leaves at the growing tip at the end of it. So at this time of year, now the irises have finished flowering, it's a great time to lift the mats or the clumps of plants from the ground, split off one fan of leaves with a short section of corky rhizome attached to it. It doesn't need to be a whole complicated maze of stems, just one short section, last year's section of rhizome will do. Cut that off from the parent plant, one fan, one section of rhizome, repeat that a number of times so that you get as many divisions from that plant as you want, and then cut back that fan of leaves by half its height so it doesn't act like a sail in the wind and blow over, and then plant the rhizomes just around about half to just about their depth underneath the soil surface, so not burying them but just around level with the soil surface. Firm them in well, and if necessary just use a short length of cane, tie the fan of leaves to that short length of cane just to hold it upright until new roots form, and voila, you've got new irises all around your garden. That's it for this week. Another batch of questions answered. Keep your questions coming in, send them in to gardenersworld.com and I'll do my very best to answer them.